Let's take you to the breaking news story tonight. The ANC Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula, confirming in the last half hour that the NEC has decided to suspend former President Jacob Zuma's membership. It's after he confirmed late last year that he was going to campaign ahead of the elections for the newly formed Umkhonto we party. Zuma has announced that he will be voting for the new party as well, but would not be leaving the ANC. He's also spoken quite disparagingly, if you will, or has been critical of the current leadership of the ANC under the leadership of current President Cyril Ramaphosa. Let's get the view now of political analyst Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast. Professor Breakfast, a very good evening to you. So many had expected that there might be this announcement that Zuma has been suspended by the ANC, but some of your colleagues, in fact, in the analysis space, saying that they would note that perhaps what the ANC risks doing is strengthening his position by suspending or expelling him. What do you think will happen?
Well, I think what is source for the goose is source for the gander. What you apply to the left-hand side, you must also apply it to the right-hand side. So if the ANC says it is going to institute disciplinary action against some of its members who have walked out of the ANC to join Umkhonto we, in the same way it should do the same thing to Msholozi. So I think they've made the right call. In fact, they should have made this call long time ago, because the slow pace of responsiveness to the Zuma matter has actually emboldened Msholozi to do as he pleased. Because I think for a long time he thought that the ANC doesn't want to rock the boat, given the fact that he has a substantial number of supporters. So that has made Msholozi to feel powerful. And think that he can do whatever wants. I don't think that the ANC should be blackmailed by the fact that, you know, this suspension might escalate the political cleavages within the party. If that is the case, then so be it. I mean, part of, in my view, organizational renewal also has to do with party discipline. There is no political party on a global scale that would allow duality, whereby you wear two caps. On the one hand, you belong to this party. On the other hand, you are encouraging supporters of the very same party that you belong to basically not to vote for your party. I mean, that is irrational. So the ANC should have made this call long time ago, because Msholozi was asking for it.
So
let's face it.
It's just not... Two words that you mentioned there about the ANC around how it's delayed in announcing this step, but also something else that you spoke about how former President Zuma had been emboldened to some degree by the actions of the organization. But is this a case, if you will, Professor Breakfast, of the chickens coming home to roost for the ANC? Because by Mbalula's own admission a few weeks ago, in fact, they allowed him to do many things that he was criticized for, even by Parliament, even by the courts. And even at that level, they continued to defend him and gave him this veil of cover until ultimately he came baback to bite the hand that fed him, essentially.
No, of course, I think the chickens are coming home to roost. I mean, there was a time when the ANC was under attack, partly because of his leadership. Let's face it, and the ANC defended him, close ranks, and I think that made him to think that he is powerful, he is untouchable, he can do as he please, and unfortunately that has become a threat to the ANC. So I think the ANC should have acted long time ago. I mean, I like Msholozi. I think he's a very strategic person. He can outmaneuver his political enemies. But also, he does have some very interesting operations, in politics, which are quite dubious.
On outmaneuvering, can he outmaneuver the ANC on this score?
The reality of the matter is that he has made inroads already. I don't think that Umkhonto we is confined to KZN. I also don't think that it's a tribal party. It does have a footprint throughout the length and the breadth of the country. I mean, there have been many videos of Umkhonto we circulating around showing their support. So they are posing a serious threat to the ANC, and they are making it very difficult for it to bounce back to to power. So he is posing danger to the ANC, and I think Umkhonto we Sizwe will affect the electoral performance of the ANC definitely. But I don't think that its presence is limited to KZN, because we can see them even in other parts of the country. That is a reality that the ANC has to accept, unfortunately.
So what would serve former President Zuma best at this moment? Does he wait it out and go along with this ANC process where he will be taken through until ultimately there's a verdict on whether to suspend or discipline him in another way? Or does he break ties altogether before he's kicked out officially and become the face of Umkhonto we Sizwe?
Well, my view is that Umkhonto we Sizwe is his brainchild. It's his brainchild. Even though he's not the embodiment of the party, maybe because of his age. But I think he's going to frame a grand narrative that he did not walk out of the ANC. He wanted to save the ANC, but the ANC elbowed him by suspending him. That's why the ANC was circumspect in terms of suspending him, because they knew that he's a maneuverist, that is going to frame a narrative that he's been kicked out of the ANC. He didn't want to leave the ANC, and it's going to blame the ANC, and he might get some sympathizers, who might sympathize with him.
And on that, how much do you think the strategy of Jacob Zuma, the victim, the political victim, the survivor, will sell now? Because in 2007, it did very well for him. In fact, he was able to defeat Thabo Mbeki at Polokwane that year. How much has the political terrain changed? And how much is such a messaging, such a positioning still effective in South African politics today, especially within the ANC and the allied forces?
Well, he says that he has an unfinished business. That's why he is urging people to vote for Umkhonto we Sizwe. And I think the message will be pitched by Umkhonto we Sizwe to the people of this country will be that of radical economic transformation, because it says that the ANC did not implement that program of radical economic transformation in terms of the return of the stolen land, nationalization of the commanding heights of the economy, and entrenching black people in the commanding heights of the economy. So I think that is the program of action of Umkhonto we Sizwe, and that is going to be the message in the build-up to the upcoming general elections. And I think that's why MK has joined forces with the EFF and this party of Ace Magashuda. So that common denominator is a radical economic transformation, which is pulling all of them together.
Why would that message, let's say on the issues of radical economic transformation, the redistribution of land, why would that resonate with voters today when you consider that Jacob Zuma was a two-term president of the ANC and the country, and even in that decade, there wasn't significant progress in achieving those objectives?
My view is that radical economic transformation is a nativism. It's an ideology that emerged in post-colonial states in the 20th century. To exploit historical factors in order to conceal, the weaknesses of liberation movement. It's the same thing that happened in Zimbabwe when ZANU-PF was dealt with a blow by that referendum of 2000. Then he spoke about the return of the stolen land. Sholozi also did the same thing when there were findings against him by the former public protector, and when the Constitutional Court ruled against him. Then he introduced radical economic transformation to divert our attention from the allegations of corruption against himself. In as much as I like him, but he has this mentality that it's either my way or the highway.
And lastly, just on that, the fact that he may even draw support possibly from a person like Ace Magashuda, who's launched his own political vehicle and is not officially in any sort of relationship with this Umkhonto we Sizwe organization that the ANC still wants to fight, by the way, at another level. What should we make of the fact that in the last 2-3 years, we've seen basically, today being the latest event where former President Jacob Zuma is being suspended by the ANC, Ace Magashule, a staunch ally who was SG, was basically expelled from the party. His other allies, such as Supra Mahumapelo, has basically fallen in line with the stance of the ANC of today and kept his position at some level in Parliament. Why did the dominoes fall in that way for the pro-Zuma faction?
I think from now onwards, in particular, Msholozi, they are going to intensify their efforts in terms of trying to solicit votes and in terms of unleashing attacks against the ANC, and also is going to play the victim that he did not walk out of the ANC, but the ANC elbowed him and try again to get sympathizers who see him as a victim. The relationship between Ace Magashule and Msholozi is a very interesting one, because I get the sense that there was a fallout there. Because Msholozi did not anoint him to be the presidential contender in the previous conference of the ANC. That's why Ace Magashule has made it clear that they are joining forces as two separate, independent political parties. So it's not like the party of Ace Magashule is going to be subsumed in Umkhonto weSizwe. So I think the main aim is to pose a serious threat to the ANC. And I agree with the view that his main aim is to dislodge the ANC from the helm of power, because he thinks that the ANC did not support him the way they should have. And the ANC did not give him political protection.
Ntsikelelo Breakfast, Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast, good to talk to you tonight about the breaking news. We'll bring that up for you, hopefully, on the side of the screen. The ANC confirming a short time ago a decision to suspend its former president, Jacob Zuma.